Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey, what's up, you guys? This is John.
And I'm Kevin.
And this is 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger, the podcast where we take a long, hard look at some of our favorite action movies from the era of, I've been waiting to say this, Arnold.
Schwarzenegger is the icon of the genre, and we're taking a deep dive into some of our favorite 80s and 90s cult action movies and breaking them all the way down.
All the way down, getting down to the nitty-gritty, to minutia you didn't know you cared about.
Fight to survive!
This is our second episode for a favorite of ours, something that we hold near and dear to our hearts, and that is, Kevin?
Bloodsport.
Bloodsport, friends.
The Jean-Claude Van Damme vehicle.
His maiden voyage.
Catapulted him onto the world stage. It's a fucking badass movie.
It's wonderful. It's garbage in the best possible way.
So our last episode we covered right up until his Frank Dukes, our star character's completion of his ninja training, right?
He has completed his training via flashback.
Via flashback. Now we're back in the present.
And so we see just post flashback as Frank is coming out of the phase, the fog of flashback, that he's in his Shidoshi, his sensei, his home, and he walks into the bedroom to visit Tanaka, who, for all intents and for what we know, it's like he's got cancer. Something is not right. He's on his deathbed.
He seems to be near death, but they never actually say that. But it's just weird if he's not at the verge of death. I don't know.
And a lot of weird things. Like Frank walks in, Tanaka's sitting there with his eyes open.
He's like, "Are you asleep?"
What the hell? But Tanaka's response is golden. It's like, "Do you sleep with your eyes open?"
Yeah.
I want him to say, "Dumbass."
Basically. The Duke's wants to tell him, "Hey, Shidoshi, I'm on my way to the Kumite.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you proud.
Just stopped by to tell you I'm going to honor you." And Tanaka tells him, "My spirit will be with you, and you're going to fucking need it."
So in my mind, this should have been the death scene.
It would make sense for it to be.
It feels like the scene where Luke goes to visit Yoda in Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Like, "Hey, just want to let you know I'm good with my training," and say your goodbyes, right?
Well, it would be sort of amazing if it's like Tanaka was recovering from a skin cancer removal.
Right? He had his his hip replaced.
I just can't move.
He's fine.
How do you feel? I'm an old man.
He's
Why?
like, "Yeah, no, I'll see you after the Kumite."
No, I'll be here. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I could see the writing session. Frank sitting in the room and he's telling the story and he's like, and then I went in and I met my Shidoshi face to face and said my goodbyes and they're like, "Oh man, was he sick?" And he's like, "No, he just had a hip replacement."
Right. He had gout. But they never show or even imply that he died.
No. We
We
never know what happened to him.
He's sick. He could just have a stomach bug.
Yeah, he's okay. He's just old. So the next scene, suddenly Frank is in Hong Kong. We're seeing the action happening.
Do you think does it make for a better movie? Would it have been better if Tanaka had been healthy and had come with him?
I think it makes it weaker. Like if he dies in Mickey fashion,
dies at the
ringside,
ring. Chong Li karate chops him or something,
and pushing him roughly, kills Tanaka,
shakes him up a little bit.
Tanaka gets one last blow in before he dies.
I feel like Frank, being on his own, I guess makes for a more dramatic story.
I think that the being able to say goodbye was dramatic, but maybe he did die in a previous version of it and we just never saw it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who knows?
It's not impactful, but
anyway. Dukes is on his own in Hong Kong.
Dukes is on his own in Hong Kong. He's on a double-decker tour bus when Jackson, fully representing the good old USA, in Harley attire, Levi's, and Reebok's high
Head
tops.
to toe America.
And gets on the bus drinking beer.
Long hair, beer in hand. Was that I never noticed if he was drinking American beer or not. It seemed just generic.
I'm pretty sure that if you look closely, they're like Asian symbols. I think that he probably depleted his American alcohol on the plane and immediately started looking for the nearest convenience store. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that conversation. Beer. I need beer.
And Jackson just like immediately starts harassing a woman.
That's America.
It's like, well, are we supposed to find him endearing or find him repulsive?
I think you're supposed to sort of be bemused by him in the same way that Frank is, where he's kind of like just rolling his eyes and like chuckling to himself instead of being like, "Sir, you need to leave this lady alone."
He's doing it all with like a smile on his face, but it's still like a dirtbag. He's just like, you want to go out with a real big man?
No, it's
gross.
It's easy.
Then he's like throws his leg up. She's like trapped in her seat now.
To put that nasty. Listen, walking around Kowloon,
Those high top Reeboks
is gross.
Were those pumps?
I don't think he could afford pumps.
I don't know that pumps were even a
but
thing.
the high tops were a thing. He was rocking them. They were excellent.
And he's like, what? Didn't he say something like too good looking for you? I mean, he's funny.
Well, I think that's
but that doesn't make it okay.
No. Yeah, no, it's totally skeezy. It's a terrible moment, but yeah, Frank just sort of rolls his eyes. Turns out they're staying at the same hotel as we learned later.
Oh, of course.
But
it seems like half the Kumite guys are in that hotel.
They're all at the East Lake. Yeah, that's in your welcome packet. Is hotel accommodation.
Go check in at the East Lake.
Set up. You have a room set up under Kumite.
Your handler will find you there.
Under Black Dragon Society.
Yeah, your discount code is Kumite.
Your discount code is Fight to Survive.
So the reporter,
Janice.
I didn't even know she had a name before doing research.
I didn't know she had a name.
Do they ever say her name?
Well, Jean-Claude muddles his way. I think he calls her Janice at one point, but it's like it's like you can barely make out what it is.
He slurs her name out.
So Janice is at the bar talking to a couple of silk pajama kung fu fighters, asking them about the Kumite. Everyone's playing dumb about it. She's trying to
Kumite. What is Kumite?
Exactly. She's trying to give them bribe them with information about their opponents.
I feel like they should have exchanged a glance when she's like, "I've got information about your opponents." That should have been like they looked at each other like, "Well, maybe."
They have honor, man.
They do have honor. Those two were very serious guys.
They were. And so cut from that shit going on at the bar, and we see Jackson rocking and rolling at an old school arcade game, which I found out was from 1984 called Karate Champ.
A guy I work with named Rick, I wasn't even sure if that was a real game or not, and he said back in he's a little older than me. He said, "Oh, that game was like awesome at the arcade. That it was just joysticks, no buttons,
really?
But it was like a combination. It was like a combination of like 2 ups and a left would do like a flip kick or something. It was
that makes sense.
You hit combinations with the joystick and it would make you do certain moves.
That seems like you would need much more a much more sophisticated touch to be good at than just pressing a punch or kick button.
They cut the scenes out of the Frank Dukes training montage of him training on the video game because he's skilled at it instantly.
And we see him walk by. He sort of observes Jackson, and Jackson checking him out, and says, "You want to play?"
He's like, "Yeah."
You think you can beat me? Well, I'll try. Frank says, "I'll try." And so and then
there's that moment you love.
There's some discrepancy about this line, and I may have been misquoting it. I guess according to
the subtitles.
When Frank starts to reach for money, I always used to think that Jackson was saying, no, I've got it. It only takes money, which I just thought that's hysterical. It's like, of course he's belittling Frank.
Exactly.
Like he doesn't have money.
He was going to come out with a pocket lint or a stick of gum or something.
But he apparently actually says.
The subtitles say he's like, I don't want to take your money to Frank, thinking
it's still like, you're a poor guy.
Yeah. He doesn't know anything about Frank. But they get it on.
Maybe Frank smells because he'd been wearing the same outfit for 4 days.
That's true. He showed up in Hong Kong wearing the same tank top and leather jacket that he was wearing in California.
Been traveling at least 24 to 48 hours.
What's that flight like? Is that nonstop?
No. It depends on where you're coming from. I guess from California.
He was West Coast.
If you're coming West Coast, that's still a real long flight.
Do you have a Hong Kong or a Hawaii layover or something?
No, I think I don't know what it was like in.
They can do that
in
flight.
86. Yeah, that's a nonstop flight.
Okay. But it is like you say, it's like an 18-hour flight or something crazy, right?
Yeah, it's long. I don't know if that is 18 hours. I'd have to check. I feel like it's more like at like 6. Well, 6. I'm nitpicking. It's like 16, Kevin.
We
Come on.
feel for whoever was sitting next to him on that flight, though.
And Jackson.
He had to be funky. Jackson just looks like he smells bad at all times.
Yeah, he does. He smells like booze. 100%. So, yeah, unsurprisingly, Frank's mastery of the martial arts extends to video versions as well.
Of course, he's a natural.
He kicks Jackson's ass, and they both sort of confide in each other that they're there for Kumite and become fast friends.
Right. He's like, you like this kind of fighting? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, come watch me at the Kumite. It's like, I too am here for the Kumite.
Which they're the two worst guys in all of Hong Kong that are not supposed to
Secret
be telling
keeping?
they're just like, I'm here for the Kumite too. Americans are dumb, is what we're taking on from this.
They're like, there's a weird bromance there. Like, they are instantly best friends.
It's like us. Oh.
Insta friends.
Yeah.
And
big time.
I feel like the what it is, Donald Gibb?
Yeah, Donald Gibb.
I feel like his performance is what really sells it. Like, he's just instantly like, I'm going to take this young guy under my wing.
He's the great, like loud, brash, to Frank's straight man.
He says, like, aren't you a little young for full contact?
Yeah.
Which
you
really?
a little old to play video games?
Which is a good comeback.
Yeah.
But also, like, I don't understand what age would have to do with anything.
Yeah, because at this point, I'm trying to remember back to the Black
Van
Belt
Damme,
article.
I think, was 27. I don't know how old Frank was supposed to be.
Frank was supposed to be like 24, I think, or younger when he.
Isn't that in your prime? As an athlete?
As a fighter, yeah.
I don't know. I know Bolo Young was like 40 when this movie made. How good did he look?
Seriously, man, he looked incredible.
Yeah.
He's like a bodybuilding. I would have not guessed that in a million
I could
years.
see how you want to have experience and lots of fighting experience, I guess, before you go into something deadly. But you could fight a lot when you're, a young man, I suppose. I don't know. But
yeah, you have more. I guess you would have more stamina. You recover quicker, and it's easier to build muscle. But athletes also talk about coming into their man strength all the time. So but as a prize fighter, who even knows? I don't know. If you're out there, send us an email to an email we don't have yet.
I think we do. I don't remember what it is, but we'll hook it up later.
Yeah.
There's some email with it I made. Now we got cut back to America, where
we're back in America, and the hilariously named Helmer and Rollins, which sounds like a barbecue joint.
They come to the Tanaka home.
They come a knocking.
They looking for Frankie,
and their dynamic, besides one being old and white and the other being young and black, is hilarious because young doofy Rollins, played by future Oscar winner Forrest Whitaker,
is
being constantly stepped all over by the older, ostensibly higher ranked and whiter.
Very much whiter.
Very whiter.
I felt like they had really good chemistry, though.
Yeah, no, but it's great because
the dynamic is
because you got a pro like Whitaker getting stepped on. Whitaker, who is just this is a big time of his life. He's just coming off the success of Good Morning Vietnam and was about to.
He had been in Fast Times at Ridgemont High earlier.
Oh, that's right. As the
football star,
the legend.
Yeah.
My dad has an ultimate set of tools. I can fix this.
That is a movie right there.
God, that's a good one. Not fighting.
Not for this podcast, I guess, but watch Fast Times at Ridgemont High. To this day, best high school portrayal I've ever seen of like what it's actually like.
It's real. Forrest Whitaker does an amazing job of selling it, and their timing, like the banter back and forth and getting interrupted, everything is spot on. But anyway,
Forrest makes those great faces, like when he gets stepped on, he just sort of like is like biting his tongue,
like this happens.
Oh man, I want to smack this guy
all the time.
I feel like this would have been the time to say if Tanaka had died. Right, like this would have been the time to be like, well, she's in mourning or like wearing a black dress, like that would have been the moment I think to reveal if he had died.
Do you remember in Karate Kid Part 2?
Of course.
When the whole premise of the movie is that Miyagi's traveled to Okinawa to say goodbye to his dad. What if there had been a moment like where I don't know, it wouldn't have been. If they'd had Skype back then, it could have been a video goodbye. Frank talking to Shidoshi via Skype to say goodbye, or a phone call or something to like amp him up before the thing. But yeah, I don't think that there's any way that you can make that death happen and for it to carry the same kind of gravitas as.
He needs to die on screen.
I think it has to, but it's like.
That would have been that's what I'm saying. I don't know why he didn't just die, because he's unnecessary in the plot after that.
Yeah,
and it would have lent that much more drama to what Frank is trying to do.
The only thing that I can think of is and then they couldn't have made it all happen, because unless he was like at home on hospice care. I love that we're going back and still talking about
we got
being
to.
sick. He's going back, and like Frank shows up at his house and he's on hospice care and he's like hooked up to IVs and he's gonna die. And like if Mrs. Tanaka said something like he doesn't have long,
that's what it should have been. They show up and they want to talk to Tanaka, and then she's like, "Well, he died yesterday."
Right.
Or something like that.
Hey, writers, if you're listening,
go back.
It's time for a rewrite. There's still time, and Van Damme can still do a split.
Van Damme is still ready.
He's still ready.
He stays doing splits at home.
So they interrogate Mrs. Tanaka, and she says Frank is not here, but she doesn't know where he is now.
Yep.
And so they're like, bye. That's the end of that scene. We cut back to Hong Kong, and Dukes and Jackson for the first time meet their handler, Victor Lin.
Lin is a character. I love Lin. You Jackson? You look like a Jackson. He does look like a Jackson.
He does.
Doesn't
he?
Well,
I mean,
just all American.
Yeah, totally. If his name had been Smith, I think, or
anything. Yeah, you look like a Smith. You look like a Jones. Whatever.
That would have been great. That would make you Frank Dux.
Yeah. No. It's Dukes. Like put up your Dukes, right?
Perfect.
They're exchanging glances. Frank and Jackson like eye rolling.
They're very amused at Lin, who for his part, great. I mean, he acted the hell out of this role.
He was like, so his character basically his purpose is to just do exposition.
Yeah.
And he like actually did something. He made something of that character though, something memorable.
Yeah, because every line that he says it's on. You remember his facial expressions. You remember like his vocal inflections.
Yeah, he's definitely awesome.
That might also be our.
I feel like he steals like every scene that he's in.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I will say, for the super secret Kumite, he's talking very loudly about it in a crowded hotel lobby.
Yeah, but again, ostensibly, everyone in that lobby is already in the Kumite.
It's like that thing that everyone knows about it, but yeah, I could see that.
But only the three of them are talking about it, and Janice. So Lin starts to take them to the Kumite Arena, which is in the dark, seedy underbelly of Kowloon's walled city, which
was a real thing.
It was a real thing. It was. I remember watching these scenes and being absolutely terrified. But yeah, what's the line he says as they're walking through?
Oh, he's like, we're going to cross an invisible border into like mainland China. He's like, once we get in the narrow corridors, it's time to protect your nuts.
Protect those nuts, boys. And so apparently this place was so treacherous that just a few short years after this, the Chinese government completely boldly
that's why they knocked it down?
They razed it to the ground. I think, are you familiar with there's this part of old San Juan, Puerto Rico, and it's called La Perla. And it is where all the drug dealers lived. It was notorious. It was like pirate shanty town. And like I've been in San Juan, you kind of look down on it, and it's still like terrifying.
So they tear it down because it's like where the criminal element is safe.
If you want to remove the criminals, you destroy where they live. And so anyway, and it's easy to see why. Is there the camera work through these narrow corridors? Is the B-roll is? I mean, it's spooky.
Apparently, like the movie had some like super exclusive access to this area where film crews were not allowed to really be.
That's really interesting. I believe it, because
I mean they must have had good like pre-production team or people on the ground, like actual Hong Kong people who could get them in there.
And we're talking like what like maybe
tiny,
maybe 8 feet from side to side, maybe.
Which you can try to build it on a sound stage or on a backlot, but this had the feeling of like it's real.
The atmosphere was there.
There's dirty shit going on down every little like alcove or whatever, and you were saying like it just had to smell terrible in those alleys.
Kowloon did. Kowloon smelled like shit, like everything. It smelled like piss and shit, and food. With the food made up for it, because it's just, you're kind of walking around. You're told not to drink the water. But we also missed a key moment right before they entered the walled city, and that is their being granted admittance by
this big, burly Chinese guy,
the Asian version of Jaws from James Bond.
Yes, he what did he show him? Did Lin whisper in his ear? Did he show him the invites?
And I think
What happened?
I think they just
He
show
says,
up. He says something to him in Chinese. He says something.
He speaks Chinese
says something
to
in
him.
Cantonese.
Big
That's
guy
not
like
Mandarin.
looks Jackson and Dukes up and down, gives a big thumbs up, and says,
"Okay, USA."
and I love. Would that line be as memorable if it wasn't for Jackson turning to Frank and like sort of mocking him, like "Okay, USA"?
I don't think so. You would have remembered it, but it was immediately solidified.
I thought that was frigging.
It's brilliant.
It's
brilliant.
Such a good line. Yeah, it was like the gatekeepers, basically, right?
So yeah, the gatekeepers guide them through the nightmarish hellscape of the walled city before they turn a corner and there's a pristine temple in the subway.
Now, there's a movie that has been referenced before on this podcast, not an action flick, called Beer Fest, that like totally spoofed this whole walking down the alley and like there's shady shit going on in every corner, which I didn't really put two and two together until rewatching Bloodsport like 5 times within the last 2 weeks. But when they get to that main door, it's also that thing of like, I feel like they were doing a gag with the two actors where neither one wanted to go first. Like Jackson pushes Frank ahead, and then Frank sort of pushes Jackson through the door.
Even as they're walking down the alley, Jackson sort of puts his hand on Frank's shoulder.
He's like, "All right, buddy,
he's sort of
you
like,
got this."
Sort of like, yeah, he's like on the one hand trying to comfort him, but on the other hand, like hiding behind him just in case some shit goes down.
Right. Which aren't these two like they picture themselves as we can fight anybody, we can take care of ourselves.
They're
scared.
They're the Americans.
Yeah. I loved it.
So they pass through the doors, the beautiful, pristine doors of the temple, and they walk in and immediately are met with the warm glow of the ring and fighters warming up, sparring around. And
all the gamblers are there.
The bookies and their female companions.
They're like scouting the fighters, I guess. They go to who Lin called the Black Dragon Boys.
Yeah, and says that he gives them the rundown of how you were admitted, which to my now adult ears, it's a lot of rigmarole that you have to you show the invitation, you have to qualify, and
then didn't Duke say in real life, like once you got there, you had to prove to them that you could handle yourself?
Yeah,
like because they didn't necessarily know everybody who showed up with an invitation.
Want people to show up and like endanger other people, which is stupid because this is contact karate.
But it leads to like some of the best dialogue in the movie. So he showed, the two Black Dragon guys, they look at each other when they look at Frank's, and they're like, "You don't." He's like, "This says he's trained by Shinso Tanaka. You don't look like Tanaka."
And then Lin,
and he's like,
"What's the hold up?
What's the hold up?" He's like, he says he's Shidoshi was Tanaka.
What's the difference if Bruce Springsteen is his Shidoshi?
It is like pretty great.
Oh my god, it's so good.
The dudes are like, all right, well, if you're really a Tanaka trained guy, like then you can show us the Dim Mak.
What the hell is a Dim Mak?
It's the death touch.
Oh man, the death touch. And this is, and for those of you who are as big of fans as we are of this movie, you know that the guys that created Mortal Kombat ripped this movie off within an inch of its life, and all the test your might sequences of the game are like directly ripped from this shit. It's all the Dim Mak. And so it means he's got to break a brick, right? He's
got such touch, I guess, that in a stack of bricks he can like put the right pressure on to break any one of the bricks in the stack.
Energy transfer. That's what in real life Frank Dukes.
Which this is like I feel like this is a conceit in a lot of karate movies.
Yeah.
Whether it's like, I think there was the one in Kill Bill that was like the 5-point palm exploding hard. It's like you do this right thing, you put the right pressure on, and you can make anything happen, I suppose.
If you find that pressure point, then you can, you kind of bring your opponent to your.
I think in a lot of kung fu movies, it's like a thing.
So he asks Lin to choose a brick, and Lin unsurprisingly picks top middle.
He doesn't know what's going on. He's like, yeah, this top one.
I don't know this one. But right as he's about to break it,
yeah, the dudes cut in, and they're just like, no, bottom brick. And
which the whole room stops.
The whole room shuts down.
You have our attention.
Everyone wants to watch. The tension really builds. I feel like there was good music there, as well as I guess Van Damme.
Well,
like breathing exercises and all that.
This is the first moment where we hear some pretty interesting stuff from the film's composer Paul Herzog. Where we sort of hear the return of Frank's training music as he's getting in that mind space to break the brick.
It's like a very sort of mystical sounding.
They're like
musical
wind chimes
cue
and stuff.
Yeah,
it's pretty effective.
He's focused in. He like does his thing. It's a pretty great effect. I assume it was a special effect.
Yeah.
They just had a rigged
Like a
up,
clay
like
brick that
rigged to
explodes.
blow up or whatever, brick rigged to blow up, and it explodes from the bottom. Van Damme sells it with his typical like Van Damme face, like his screaming ah! or whatever, right? All the other fighters like seem pretty intimidated
Or impressed.
or just like super impressed, except for Chong Li.
Who Jackson sort of nudges Frank and says, "Hey, buddy, turn around and get a
Yeah,
load
look
of
at
this
this
piece
guy."
of work." And Chong Li delivers this nugget. I think you have to go for it.
Oh, he's like, very nice, but Brick no hit back. Now, is this scene like the Dim Mak scene? Is that the most memorable scene in the whole movie?
It's a great scene. The most memorable.
I feel
scene?
like that the visual of like him hitting the brick or whatever is almost like that stands out to me when I
It's-
try to picture.
if of all the
what I
moments,
think of when I
all
think
the
of the
moments
film.
where it's like Frank achieves some sort of like not godlike mystical power, but I mean there's something kind of otherworldly about being able to isolate energy and choose the brick that's going to break like that. So yeah, it doesn't make
It's
any
like
sense
magical or
from
whatever,
a physics
right?
standpoint. I would love to see a what is that show? The Science Network show. You remember the one
Yeah.
where they're like testing all the things
Oh,
to see if
Mythbusters?
Mythbusters. I would love to see a Mythbusters episode about this.
Dude, that is a good call.
And get a karate expert on there to see if he could perform the Dim Mak, and they'd probably say this
There's
is
that thing what do you call this?
impossible.
The swinging balls thing.
Yeah,
That's kind of a transfer of energy.
I don't know. It's on every principal's desk or every CEO's desk
Yes.
in America.
That thing, you probably know what we're talking about. If we don't feel like it when we have sobered up, we'll just edit that out. But it is like an energy transfer thing.
Yeah.
You send your energy through all the bricks to the bottom one.
People know what we're talking about. The
They
steel ball,
know.
the ball bearing, swinging back and forth at each
Yeah,
other.
it has a name.
We
Jacob's
don't-
Ladder.
We know what it's called. We don't know what it's called, and you don't either.
If you do, please tweet at us.
Absolutely.
But so yeah, the judges or whatever then are like, of course, oh yes, we'll honor your invitation.
Yeah, no shit. Okay.
That's Jackson. No shit, you honor his invitation.
So we've cut from a successful induction ceremony at the Black Dragon Society to Helmer and Rollins chilling with Inspector Chen at the downtown Hong Kong precinct to
Yeah.
try to find Dukes. And he only after a little arm twisting, and they reveal that they know what the Kumite is about, and he tries to play dumb. He's like, Kumite? What?
Yeah, he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about, boys.
Yeah, they twist his arm a little bit, and he agrees to help. I'm skipping through that fast because it's a lot of hand waving, because we need to get to a more important scene, which immediately follows this, which is the scene with Hossein in the
Hossein.
hotel bar.
He's harassing our reporter Janice.
Oh, man.
I mean, let's be honest. He's essentially doing the exact same thing that we found charming when Jackson did it on the bus.
But he's much more menacing. He's trying to physically grab her.
and he's got like goons with him.
Yeah, and he, after she calls him an asshole, rears back to slap the crap out of her before being
He grabs
stopped.
her. Yeah. Or Frank grabs him?
Yeah, Frank grabs Hossein's arm as he's reaching back to slap. And we sort of start to see the beginning of their
True.
exchange. There's about to be a throwdown. People are about to get disqualified from Kumite.
Yeah. Was it? Who was it? Oh, it was Frank who says, like, we're going to get thrown out of Kumite just for her?
Oh, yeah, and this look of incredulity, like, what?
She's like, I'm worth getting
How
thrown out of
demeaning,
Kumite.
yeah. She wants people to fight over her. That's Janice's style.
She's a drama queen.
She wants that attention. Hossein maintains that despite many protestations that Janice is in fact coming upstairs with him so that he can, I guess, rape her, and they're supposed to be okay with it, but Frank then makes a friendly wager. Are you a betting man, Hossein?
What is bet?
He bets Janice's sexual honor that he
Yeah.
can successfully yoink a coin out of Hossein's hand.
Which, I mean, there's no reason to assume that this is going to work. Like, I just wonder in my mind what would have happened if he had lost the bet. Like, they weren't going to let them take Janice
I guess that, but they would have been disqualified.
for fighting.
Yeah.
I guess so.
So but that's the thing is, if you're fighting for machismo, is that different than protecting a woman's honor?
I don't know. But I will say the whole the coin scene we're about to talk about is another one that's like as memorable as anything.
Yeah, and it's like we're seeing Frank perform some Jesus-like miracles here,
or some David Blaine-like magic.
Yeah, he's fucking with people's heads. Frank is actually a magician, which I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually true.
But yeah, basically the gist is he puts the coin in Hossein's hand, a quarter, and he tells him, all right, if you can close your hand before I can grab the coin, then you can have Janice. Basically, if I can grab the coin, then she belongs to me.
That's a sweet bet. And I love Jackson's face here. He's like, oh my God.
He's like, I hope you know what you're doing, buddy.
It's so great. And then we get a momentary flashback of simpler times when Frank used to hand catch goldfish with his Shidoshi.
Oh yeah, he's got.
We get a momentary flashback.
He's all been training for this moment.
We see close-ups of his eyes. There's a slight quiver of an eyebrow, and bam.
Yeah, he's like, go, or something, and
go.
It happens like in the blink of an eye, and Hossein's like, haha, you lose, American asshole. Which, first of all, this comes up in Kickboxer too. How would you hear Van Damme talking and say, oh, you're an American?
Just by virtue of that fact, Hossein could have been American. Hossein's from Queens.
He's as American as Van Damme is.
100%.
Anyway.
But then we get some excellent physical acting from Van Damme. That overhead point.
A weird downward pointing gesture. You only see his fingertip almost coming in from off screen. But yeah,
Newt should have come out wide for that shot, but
Hossein opens his hand and he swapped the coins.
Not only did he grab the quarter, he swapped the coins.
He left him, I guess, maybe a Hong Kong or Chinese coin in there.
I guess the girl's coming with me.
So now,
or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
Don't
She's
tweet
mine.
me that that's the wrong line. I know.
But then we got Frank and Janice walking on the pier or whatever, wearing the most ridiculous 80s clothes.
Oh yeah,
like super baggy, huge shoulder pads. It's insane.
His pants are again always pulled up to his like way past his navel.
His pants are up to like well above the belly button, maybe 2 inches below his pecs.
But this is a great moment of exposition in this romantic harborside stroll where Janice says, I hear the Kumite is unnecessarily brutal. It's like a cockfight, but with people.
Right,
and she's like asking him for more intel, and he's like, nah.
She's pumping him for information. He says, I'll talk to you if you want to have dinner later.
Which is pretty smooth.
You like that move?
I
don't know. Everything, Van Damme just comes off sleazy to me.
Well, is that because
Euro trash.
Are you thinking of like him in the bar and Kickboxer? Because like
I don't know. I guess it was a good move. I mean, she could have said no.
But I feel like the way that he asked her wasn't necessarily skeezy. So Janice agrees to dinner, even though she jokes that she kind of wishes that Hossein would have taken her to dinner, which
I guess this is early in the morning then that the showdown kind of was happening, because there's like that's early in the day to be putting off rapey vibes for Hossein. And Hossein had to get to the Kumite. He doesn't have time to go upstairs with Janice.
You don't know Hossein's pre-fight ritual?
Oh, I don't even want to know. But so there will be a dinner happening between Frank and Janice. We can only wait for the sparks to fly. But there's a whole day of Kumite fighting that's got to happen first.
How will Frank have the energy to have dinner with Janice?
I don't know, but we're going to find out in the next chapter of our breakdown of Bloodsport.
Thanks for joining us, you guys. We'll see you next time.
We'll be back.